All right, motherfuckers. It's the hater back again. All right. It's WrestleMania season. We're in their full swing. You know what I mean? After you see a little commercial for WWE or Raw or anything else that has to do with the WWE, you see, for example, the little commercials that they have where it's like 55 days till WrestleMania, right? This worries me because I don't see anything happening in the next 30 to 40 days in terms of like storylines and building any kind of narrative, right? It's like they're focusing on things like Mustafa Ali versus Kofi Kingston as if that has any place on the WrestleMania card. Like nobody wants to see that shit, you know? So, I mean, can you imagine if that's a WrestleMania match? Like, that is like a match that everyone in the history of WrestleMania watchers will agree is the worst WrestleMania match of all time. Everyone will skip it. But that's neither here nor there. Who gives a flying fuck, right? We're talking about Vengeance Day here today, motherfucks. Vengeance Day is really indicative of one problem that NXT has that might be greater than all other problems, right? So for a while, NXT had people like Keith Lee, Dominik Dijakovic, Damian Priest, what's his name? Damian Priest, right? They had a bunch of big guys, right? And fortunately for them, they were big guys that could wrestle. And then they had like these like not so big guys, but like big enough guys, like Velveteen Dream, people like that, right? Where it's like, all right, these are like people that they don't look like pussies, you know what I mean? They're not like tiny men, you know? And I was really looking forward to this because I'm like, oh, and then Karrion Kross came and shit like that. So I was looking forward to it. I'm like, oh my God, like, are they really switching towards this more like big guy, like, you know, aesthetic? And it turns out they aren't, right? It turns out they went the exact opposite way. They pretty much took Keith Lee and they took fucking Damian Priest and they put them on Raw and they took Finn Balor, put him on NXT, right? This really is like just a trade, right? You may as well just say we traded Keith Lee eventually for Finn Balor. Because let's call it like it is, motherfuckers. Let's call it like it is, right? Keith Lee is probably going to end up against like Lashley in some capacity during these next few weeks. It's going to be him, Lashley, and Riddle at Elimination Chamber. So I don't really see Keith Lee doing anything other than fighting for the mid-card title against Lashley, probably in a triple threat. Who did this a couple of years ago? Finn Balor, Lashley, and I believe Seth Rollins or some other shit like that, right? They were in the IC title picture forever. No one really gave a fuck. So there you have it. They're obviously moving towards this Finn Balor like wrestling style, which has its benefits and has its drawbacks, right? The benefits are the matches are more athletic sometimes. The drawbacks are no one's watching, no one cares, right? So there you have it, motherfuckers. Starting off, we had the finals of the female Dusty Cup, Cup Championship Tournament, whatever the fuck it's called, right? Now, the problem with this is this, right? In my opinion, they could name this after an influential female wrestler and have it 6 months later. This does not need to be attached to Dusty Rhodes. Enough shit is already attached to Dusty Rhodes. If you're someone that tuned in last week, right, and you watched AEW, NXT, Raw, and SmackDown somehow in your first week ever of watching wrestling, you would think that Dusty Rhodes is like Stone Cold, Hulk Hogan, and The Rock combined, right? When in fact, he was like pretty much a nobody. Like nobody gives a fuck about Dusty Rhodes, right? He's one of those people that like was relevant before none of us were born, right? Like he was relevant in like the 70s or 80s or some shit, right? Nobody really cared about him. And all of a sudden now he's like a household name. It's the strangest thing, you know? No disrespect to Dusty Rhodes because the things that I have seen from him, I have liked, right? But I'm being honest, all I've seen are like his little like promos here and there. Oh, my son Cody. Oh, my son's Gold Dust. Don't fire them, authority. Like that kind of shit, you know? I've never seen this guy wrestle, you know what I mean? And if you have, you must be either really old, and maybe not really old. Maybe I'm talking out of my ass here. But you must be, you're definitely older than the target demographic in the demo, right? That, or you're some guy that goes back and likes to watch like an obese man in polka dots, you know, like have wrestling matches. Like I mean, maybe he was the best wrestler ever. I just don't foresee this guy as having good matches, you know? But you hear about him as if he's like the best thing ever, you know what I mean? He hasn't wrestled, like he's been dead for like 5 years, rest his soul, you know? But he hasn't wrestled in like God knows how long, right? You know, and I mean really wrestled. Not like the way that Arn Anderson and Tully Blanchard come up there and do like a handicap match once in a while. I'm talking about real wrestling, right? You know, he hasn't done any of that shit. But you'd think this guy is like this super legend, you know? Like you'd think he's Ric Flair. Why isn't it the Ric Flair classic, right? I get it. Dusty Rhodes helped NXT. Good for him, you know? But I'm kind of tired of hearing about Dusty Rhodes. And honestly, it's not WWE's fault. Like, they're not to blame. It's Cody Rhodes' fault. This guy can't fucking cut a promo without referencing that he's the son of Dusty Rhodes. We get it, bro. We get it. You're the son of Dusty Rhodes. Like, fucking get over it. You know what I'm saying? Like, if your dad was fucking Trump, Obama, and George Bush combined, right? You still wouldn't be talking about it, So fucking move on. Let's move on, motherfucks. So Dusty Rhodes Cup women's final horseshit match, right? I was making guacamole during this match because I really didn't give a flying fuck. I didn't care at all about this match. But I did hear while making guacamole, right? Typically, I would skip forward to some bitch. But I was making guacamole, so I didn't want to miss, like, any other good matches maybe, right? So nothing's happening here. And then eventually all I hear is like false finish. And this does not work, right? We've talked about this before. The Undertaker and Shawn Michaels false finish WrestleMania matches worked because it's Undertaker and Shawn Michaels, right? And the second match, one man's career, legendary career, is on the line. So it's a completely different environment. When Ember Moon emulates this and kicks out at things, and Shotzi Blackheart kicks out at things, no one cares, right? People would rather them not kick out of it and move on to the next match. Like, I really do believe that, right? This only works in a Shawn Michaels Undertaker-esque match, right? Where what you're thinking is, man, I really don't want this match to end because it's amazing. I really don't want Michaels' career to end because it's been amazing, right? So they tease you with the end of the career or the end of the match. And then they continue it for a little bit longer, right? Nobody's thinking the same thing when you Shotzi Blackheart and Ember Moon. No one's thinking, man, I can't handle it. If this match ends, I don't know how I'll live. Everyone's thinking, holy shit, why isn't this match fucking over? I've already finished my guacamole. Why isn't this goddamn match over? That's what everyone is thinking, right? The match mercifully ends when Raquel Gonzalez does her like little one-arm powerbomb, which is a badass move. I love this move. It's great, right? It really shows her for what she's supposed to be, which is this really strong character, right? She's not a pussy, she's a tough girl, and she's stronger than everybody else. And this move shows that. The association between wrestler, character, and finisher is a very important one and a very nuanced one that has been lost, right? It's been lost, and like people need to reclaim that shit immediately, right? Like the Rock Bottom, for example, right? Great name, great wrestler, great finisher, it all fits somehow. I don't even know how to explain it. It all fits somehow. Stone Cold Stunner, same thing. Whatever. That's neither here nor there, motherfuckers. The pedigree. Probably the best example. Whatever. The point I'm trying to make is Raquel Gonzalez clearly is the only person in this match who has any kind of possibility at becoming a star. And thus, it was evident to me that she and Dakota Kai would win. Dakota Kai is presented as the Shawn Michaels, and Raquel Gonzalez is presented as the Diesel, right? So invariably, Raquel Gonzalez will one day beat the shit out of Dakota Kai, right? Raquel Gonzalez will probably become champion, and Dakota Kai might have a career afterwards. She sure as shit is no Shawn Michaels, right? This match went on forever. Next up, speaking of going on forever, we have Johnny Gargano and Kushida. I didn't give a shit about this match. Why? Because I don't care about the NXT North American Championship, right? This doesn't work, motherfuckers. It's not working out, the North American Championship. The match starts, and Tom Phillips or whatever, he's like, Johnny Gargano is the only 3-time NXT North American champion. Who the fuck cares? That's like an embarrassing fact. Like that's not something to brag about. Oh, I've won the Jobber title 3 times. That means you've lost the Jobber title twice, motherfucker. You've lost it twice. Right, you've lost the title that nobody wants 2 times, right? And then you still went after it. This is the equivalent of, say, you introduce Rey Mysterio, right? And like right now, I mean, not back in the day, because back in the day the Cruiserweight title meant something. But you introduce Rey Mysterio now, right? And then he wins the Cruiserweight title, holds it for let's say 5 months, loses it, and then instead of moving on to try to get the US title, he's still there fighting for the Cruiserweight title, and you're like, oh, Rey Mysterio is great, and then you might even like Rey Mysterio. You're like, oh shit, this guy is great, right? But it's like, his greatness kind of falls a little bit by the fact that he keeps going after the Cruiserweight title. And again, the Cruiserweight title, even the current Cruiserweight title, the NXT Cruiserweight title, is better, motherfucks, than the NXT North American Championship. This is the most meaningless of all belts. Like, this match shouldn't even happen, And then Tom Phillips again continues to do nonsense, and he's like, this is a dream match. Kushida to Gargano is a dream match. No, it's not a dream match. It is not a dream match. It's a nightmare waiting to happen. I don't want to see this. Nobody wants to see this. Nobody has ever fantasized, oh, you know what matches I'd love to see? Undertaker Sting, Batista Brock Lesnar, and Johnny Gargano Kushida. No one's ever thought this. This isn't a thing that's ever happened. That discussion has never taken place. No one sat down there with someone and discussed what match, if you could see any match, which is what a dream match is. If you could see any match, what match would it be? You know what? If somehow we could make Hulk Hogan versus John Cena in their primes happen, that'd be great. And then someone's like, you know what I'd like to see? Kushida versus Johnny Gargano. Or here it is, motherfucks. Here it is in front of you. In like a horseshit, throwaway, bullshit NXT pay-per-view, right? The match went on for a fucking eternity. Gargano eventually wins, The way is horrible. The Way is one of the worst factions in the history of factions. It might be the worst faction in the history of factions, right? Wade Barrett, like The Way's catchphrase is something like, if you're not in the way, then stay out of the, like, our way or something like that, right? And Wade Barrett points out that this is like essentially a ripoff of you're either Nexus or you're against us, right? It's literally that. They literally stole that from Nexus, right? And then Beth Phoenix makes an ass out of herself and says, well, hopefully they're a bit more successful than the Nexus. And I'm like, what the hell are you talking about? They will never be more successful than anything. They will go down as the worst stable in history. But that's neither here nor there. Let's move forward, you know? Next up, we actually had a great match. I love this match. MSK versus Grizzled Young Veterans. Here's why I loved it. All right. As I've said before, novelty is important, right? When you have new people, I get excited, right? I'm like, oh shit, what are they going to do? They're new, right? What are they going to bring to the table? You know what I mean? So that's what I liked about this. The fact that there's two new teams, and therefore the stakes are higher, right? Not because of the Dusty Cup, right? But because one of these two teams will become number one contender, and therefore will become a team that has defeated like whatever 8 other teams or 7 other teams, right? And be crowned the champion of the tournament, right? Not the cup, not the fact that they're associated with Dusty in the prestigious tournament, but the fact that they have beaten 7 other teams. Simple as that, right? They have come out on top of 7 other teams, and they're new. Both these teams are quote unquote new. Grizzled Young Vets have been around in NXT UK for a while, but nobody watches that, so nobody cares. MSK is brand new. So it's like you have these two teams that probably haven't wrestled that much in the past, and either one of them gets a huge rub, right? Because yeah, they're not beating like, you know, fucking the Hardy Boys, they're beating each other, but it doesn't matter, right? Like they're a new team that's getting a huge push, you know? I don't mean a huge push storyline wise, but you know, they're basically like entering NXT as like championship material, you know? Which is huge. So that was enjoyable in and of itself. The wrestling itself was very enjoyable. I particularly like that the long-haired guy from fucking Grizzled Young Vets. I like this guy. I don't know why. You know what I mean? Like, he really embodies that Grizzled Young Vets gimmick, if you will, right? Both of them do, but this guy more so because he has like the long hair, so you think he's gonna have this like pretty boy gimmick, right? Then he starts hitting people with these sick clotheslines. You know what I mean? So I like him a lot. I enjoyed the match. MSK is tight. They have some really cool moves. A lot of the moves that they do are things that are presented as you've never seen this before, but I don't care. You know what I mean? Like, for example, Desmond Xavier, whatever the fuck is it, Wes Lee did a thing where he did like a little, like a Sasuke special, basically, right? What is it, the great Sasuke, that Japanese guy? Where he would do like a little handstand and then do like a flip over the ropes, right? He added his own little version to it, but who cares? You know what I'm saying? It's the same shit. You know, it's the same idea, right? It's like if someone does a suicide dive between the top rope and the middle rope, or from the middle rope and the bottom rope, who cares? It's still a suicide dive. Like, I don't give a shit if you do it a little differently, right? But they also have cool things like the moonsault, which I think is one of the most creative things ever, right? This time they did the moonsault where one guy was laying down, right? By that guy's feet, his partner was like on all fours, right? And then, what's his face? Nash Carter was standing there ready to do the moonsault, and he does it, right? And then Desmond Xavier, whatever the fuck his name is now, pushes him over the guy that's on all fours, and he lands the moonsault on the guy like one person over, you know? I thought that was a creative way to do it, because typically that move makes no sense, right? It's like, why is there a push involved? You know what I mean? Like, when I've seen them do it in like TNA and stuff like that, it makes no sense, you know? They just do it, right? Now it makes sense. Like, they're doing it in situations where it's like, oh, okay, like it makes no sense for me to just run around and do the moonsault. I'll just do it here and you push me, right? So it's practical. It makes more sense, right? I would have personally preferred if Grizzled Young Vets won, because I believe that they have the greater upside, right? I believe that they're like a more entertaining and a better in-ring version of FTR. And MSK, there's going to be another MSK in like a few weeks. You know what I mean? Like, that's one thing about the wrestling today. It's like everything is so interchangeable, you know? But I was happy with MSK winning. They're cool, you know? Next up, we have Io Shirai versus Mercedes Martinez and Toni Storm in a complete throwaway match, right? Io Shirai has been champion for a fucking eternity. Nobody cares about the NXT Women's title. Like, Asuka having it for a year and a half, like, ruined the title, right? Because she had it for a year and a half, and then some other broads won, right? Like, fucking, I think Ember Moon won it, and then, what's her face? Shayna Baszler had it for another year and a half, right? And then she lost it to, who did she lose it to? To fucking some jobber. I don't even remember, right? Rhea Ripley maybe, right? Rhea Ripley had it for a little bit. Charlotte had it. Boom. Now Io Shirai's having it for another fucking 5 years. So who cares about this belt? Like, either everyone has a turn with it, or they have like long-ass title runs, so who gives a shit, you know? This match meant nothing. Io Shirai wins. Tony Storm was doing something to Mercedes Martinez. Io Shirai hits a shitty-looking moonsault and pins Mercedes Martinez after that. Then we had Finn Balor versus Pete Dunne, right? Now, they want to present this match as if it's a main event. But this match is not main event caliber match, right? This might be a good main event for NXT UK, you know? I don't mean NXT UK TakeOver, but I mean NXT UK like episode 8. You know what I'm saying? Like, this is that kind of match. This is not a match that anyone would ever pay money to see. Like, if this card was a pay-per-view, nobody would watch this. You know what I mean? Nobody would care at all. So, this is the real problem. The problem is you have these two tiny guys, and Finn Balor, I actually appreciate Finn Balor a lot more when he wrestles these small guys. Like, he has good matches with small guys because he's a small guy. You know, it's when you put him against Lashley that he has to do like shitty looking power bombs and try to like sell me on the fact that he can double stomp Lashley, you know? Finn Balor is an imposing figure when he's next to a guy who's 5'5". So he eventually beats up Pete Dunne. Pete Dunne does that same horseshit, dog shit, like digit manipulation like things, right? Long story short, Finn Balor kicks him square in the face. He takes off the mouth guard, kicks him square in the face with like a double drop kick, right? Does the coup de grace, picks him up, hits the 1916 or 1912, whatever the fuck it's called. He hits that shit and pins him, right? He gets attacked post-match by Danny Burch and Oni Lorcan. And then Undisputed Era comes to make the save. What's his face? Adam Cole kicks Finn Balor, and Adam Cole kicks Kyle O'Reilly. Adam Cole is turning on the Undisputed Era. Like, I give a flying fuck, you know what I'm saying? Who cares? But it is what it is. That's how the match ended. Nothing I can do about it, motherfucks. That's how it went down. So there you have it. This has been your Vengeance Day review. I give it, honestly, and I'm being generous here, a 2 out of 10. A 2 out of 10, and in the end, all the points, all the points, 100% of them, go to MSK versus Grizzled Young Vets, which I thought was actually a fantastic match. You know, but even a fantastic match cannot bring a shitty pay-per-view or whatever, a quasi pay-per-view from obscurity to being awesome. It's just not going to happen, cucks. So there you have it. Deal with it, motherfucks. All right, bitches. See you later, fuckers.